Welcome to the Trying to Be Better podcast with Joel and Steve.
All right, the recording's in progress. We're doing
It's all happening. Hi, everybody. Welcome. There's that laugh. Welcome to the try.
That was real too. That was legit.
It was real. Welcome to the Trying to Be Better with Joel and Steve podcast. I'm Joel.
I'm Steve.
And we're here to blow your fucking minds. I'm straight up, dude. I'm like crispy. I didn't sleep.
What's up with you, man?
So I had a bit of a. We have a guest today, so this is not the Joel therapy hour, but
it could be.
It could be. I had a real breakdown last night after I got home from work, and I was like, I'm done. I quit. I just want to work at a bank where I could punch in at 8 and punch out at 5. Screw this, you know.
Oh wow.
I'm okay. But what happened was I didn't sleep very well. I woke up like
were you
2
hungry,
hours
angry, lonely, and tired?
Okay, I ate a bunch of Asian taste Thai, so I'm not hungry anymore. Not lonely. I got you guys.
That's
I
right.
went to my meditation group. I'm not angry, but I am tired. So that's where that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Let's see. I'll run through the checklist. I'm not hungry. I just made my daughter a smoothie, and so I had one. And I'm not lonely, and I'm not angry. I'm a little stressed out, but I'm not angry, and I'm a little fatigued.
Yeah.
So I think I think it's it's good. We're a solid C+.
Last night I had a full-on Yahtzee of all 4 of those things, and now impermanence
manifested itself in Joel flipping over the proverbial table,
pretty much. Yeah. And then had a kind of a sloggy day at work, and now here I am.
Sweet.
We find us on Instagram at Trying to Be Better Podcast.
Yep.
Email the show at TTBB podcast at gmail.com.
There you go.
Have we gotten any emails, Steven?
We have not gotten any emails.
Perfect.
we're like we're batting 1,000 on that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's all the housekeeping I had. I was kind of musing about things to talk about because I wasn't sure we had a guest tonight, and I was so stoked to get a text from you like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That we have a guest.
This has been in the works for like months.
Yeah, this guy was on the original list.
Yeah, for real. Mm-hmm. That's real.
Yeah.
So tonight's guest is both Joel and I's good friend, Mr. Terry Worick. Say hi to the folks, Terry.
Hello.
Terry is a longtime friend of both me and Joel, and he's also what would you call yourself? You're the founder, owner, CEO, proprietor of Terry Worick Restorations.
That's correct. All those things, yes.
All of those things. Yeah, you're the production manager, GM, the whole deal. Yeah,
a lot of hats.
And I first met Terry, kind of in the secret recovery rooms. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell this story because I think it's really great. Is like I saw Terry kind of like from a distance, when I was significantly younger and significantly crazier than I am today. But I always I didn't know Terry well at all, really. But he was always smiling. So my nickname for Terry was Smiling Terry. And
I didn't know that. That's great.
Other people have said that.
Really? Yep. Yeah. And you always seem to have this, you always seem to just be good with what was going on. And I knew that you were active in your life and in recovery. And then you started this is an important thing, I think, is that you went to a young people's convention, I believe in Denver. Was that right?
Initially, the first one. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. And then you came back from that just on fire.
Yeah.
And you started the Nebraska Young People in Recovery thing.
Yep. I wanted to do something with that. Yeah.
You did. And that's where I really we'd gone to some things together, but I kind of came in, not at the genesis of that, but a little, maybe a year into it, maybe.
I think early. Yeah, definitely.
Pretty early, before the first Eat the Big Pig, which is this annual pig roast deal out in Lake McConaughey in the middle of Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I think you and I kind of became friends. Well, and you became my spiritual mentor for a number of years, like pretty formally. And so that's kind of I'll never forget one of the key issues that I was having in my life when that happened was my financial situation and ability to be in the black wasn't great. And I'll never, ever forget. I very stupidly and just insanely, this is after like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't, I can't make a living and I'm in debt and blah, blah. And then I bought a new car.
The vibe, dude, the Pontiac vibe.
I bought the first one in Lincoln because
I was quite surprised.
You were, and I'll never forget. Like I showed you the key, and your face turned as red as I've ever seen it, and you said, and I think I'm quoting, "We need to have a talk about accountability."
I remember how stoked you were to have that car. And I remember me and Chris were like really stoked for you. And there was like, he seems really nervous about it though, too.
Yeah,
like,
I was really
maybe that wasn't a good idea.
It was a really terrible decision. Just had I called Terry at any point during that afternoon, I would probably still be driving the Nissan pickup truck that I traded in on it because it was a great little truck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got this list of like 3 things that just because someone will allow you or will participate with you in doesn't mean it's a good idea. And sometimes we assume things are God's will because people will agree to it or participate. And one of those things is bank loans.
I have to know what the other 2 are though. So bank loans, what are the other 2, Terry?
Well, they're about relationships with women.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
just because
you can use your imagination.
I just did.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. Well, and that's the other thing. I guess the other thing I would say is that Terry, you have always, to me, you are a Zen master because you have this way of putting sometimes difficult / abstract, like spiritual or life concepts, and distilling them down into like their most fundamental core things that are like really easy to understand for everybody. You've always had a knack for that.
I agree.
And so that's always something that I've just appreciated about your friendship and just the way you look at things. It's like, you don't get twisted up about stuff. Well, you kind of can, but like, right. Like we all do, but your outlook on situations has always been just incredibly pragmatic. And the one other thing I'll say is that you, for me personally, have always been the person that has been willing to say the very difficult things to me when you felt like I needed to hear them. Right. Like you have gone out of your way to tell me that I was like out of line in a way that was like kind, in a way that made me, that didn't make me rebel or well, fuck you or whatever. It's like, oh God, if he's like you took extra steps that you absolutely did not have to take to help show me that I was off the path. And so I'm forever grateful to you for that. So there's that.
Well, I mean, I care about you guys, and I want to see you do well, whether it's about any type of situation. And usually if you're standing on the outside of that, it's not that hard to kind of see that kind of stuff. But
sure.
Anyway, I'm glad to do it.
Cool. Well,
yeah.
Well,
I'm really glad. Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man. It's really cool it's always, what I love about this platform is that we can talk to people that we know and get to know more about them. And just like that there are fascinating, interesting people in your immediate circle, and you are one of those people, not just because of your kindness and your help, but the work you do, who you are, your whole energy is really you know, we have interesting people all around us, and you're definitely one of them, Terry. So thanks for taking the time for this, dude.
So that's the thing that I actually wanted to get you on here to talk about is cars. Because that's like when I first met you, you were driving your 73 911.
Yeah. Okay.
And I knew it was yours, and I knew that you I knew that you had a shop or whatever. And I also, I noticed that like the first time I noticed you in it, that it was burning a little oil.
Oh yeah. Okay. That would have been pretty early when
it was
when I kind of had gotten it together, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I'd always wanted one of those cars,
Sure.
you know, a 911, and I'd gotten into a situation where I could purchase a damaged one that had, you know, quite a bit of miles on it, and I did, and so initially the first things I did to that were, you know, make it drivable, and the engine was tired, you know,
Mm-hmm.
So I drove it that way for probably 4 or 5 years recreationally, you know, before I addressed the engine issue. But yeah.
So I guess from my perspective, and you can correct me, is that you are, I would say, well, at least in the Midwest, and you have customers all over the country, but you're one of the, I would say, premier Porsche restoration guys in the country at the moment. Is that a correct statement?
Well, I think it's fair to say that at least within a 4-state radius.
Sure.
Just a little background, because some people who are listening, they have no idea, but
right.
I started kind of doing this kind of work in about 1990.
Yeah.
And I worked at a shop for about 6 years where we did kind of some high-end restoration stuff. And I learned a lot there, but this has always been a passion of mine since I was a kid. I mean, I got a bike, I took it apart, I put it back together. I got a motorcycle, I took it apart, I put it back together. You know, when I was 15, I wanted to have a nice car, and I knew my parents weren't going to go buy me one. And so I found this 67 Mustang in a newspaper in Kearney, Nebraska, which I bought for $550, and a book about how to restore your car. And I grabbed my dad's sander, and, you know, I went at it, and I found a buddy who had a little more knowledge than I did, and he kind of helped me, and we kind of got that done. And I was driving that to school. It was bright red 67 Mustang. And this kid in the small town I lived in, I was driving on a paved street that went straight to the high school off a side street, drove out and ran into my freshly done car. It was such a bummer, man. And there wasn't a yield sign or a stop sign at that intersection of any kind. And so they said it was an equal fault accident.
Oh my God.
And the kid wasn't, you know, responsible, but in the end, his insurance company ended up paying for my repairs. So I got that back on the road. So anyway, that's how this started, you know. And I opened my own shop in 1997. I thought, you know, if I'm going to repair cars, I want to do something special. I don't want to just do general stuff.
Collision work on Dodge Neons.
Exactly. And so I'd kind of decided that I like sports cars more than I liked muscle cars. I like the turn both ways kind of thing instead of just the straight line. And I'd been around some people that did racing and various things like that. And the history of sports car stuff through the 60s and 70s, it really interested me. And so I kind of gravitated that way. And I started doing a lot more work on those types of cars, and slowly got into kind of a specialty situation there. And I've restored and built many cars for people. And there was a customer here today with a car that I built for him that we finished like in 1999. And he's driven it all over the Midwest. Like he's made several trips with Wisconsin with it, trips to like Arkansas with it. It's his favorite car, and he has like 5.
What is it?
It's a MGB GT with a V8
Fun.
and a 5-speed transmission, air conditioning, which that car didn't come equipped like that. That I'm a little nostalgic about this right now, but a terrible thing happened last week.
Yeah.
A customer of mine that I built a similar car to the gentleman that was here today, who those 2 gentlemen are good friends, but we restored an MGC for this other person, and I finished it in 2006. And people that knew this guy, I mean, he was an amazing guy. He went to car shows everywhere. And that car, that we finished in 2006, it was a 1969 MGC. He'd driven between then and last week in excess of 100,000 miles.
That's so cool.
He made multiple trips to Stowe, Vermont to go to a British car show there, visit his son in New York. He'd driven a car to Key West.
Wow.
He had me get it ready to go to Key West, and he didn't tell me. His doctor told him not to go, and he had an 80+ percent heart blockage. And he didn't tell me that he had that. And he's like, get it ready. You got to go to this thing. And so I did. And anyway, he made it back okay. But last week, he didn't make it back okay. Wow. He was coming back from Stowe, Vermont, and on Interstate 80 in Iowa, and a car turned into his car. And he was fatally injured in the accident. Hold on, guys. My light went out.
Yeah, Terry's light just went away. I was like, oh no, did he lose power out there? Oh, that's I read the newspaper article on your friend, and he was quite a character.
And so he had started what would be referred to in Lincoln as the Flatwater Austin Healey British Car Club, him and a few other gentlemen. So he's a very well-liked guy. And, him and I spent probably about 6 to 9 months working together, building that car that he was driving last week.
Wow.
And so you get to know people pretty well. That's part of what I like about what I do is I can do stuff like that. We laughingly call it the Terry Worick Restoration Experience.
Hey, that's great. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's where you come here and you pay me to work on your car while you hang out and help. So,
do they have to pay? Do they have to pay more per hour if they help?
It's not more.
Okay.
It depends on their skill level. But
I understand.
So,
but I was just out at your shop, kind of for the first time, picking up a prop that you loaned me for a show, and there is a vibe where you just kind of want to be around it. Like you're seeing all these sort of beautiful machines just hanging out, and you're like, I want to see this thing. I want to hear it purr. I want to hear the story behind this. Like
that's real. That's
the cool thing about hearing you talk about your work over the years. When you talk about a vehicle, because I don't know much about cars, but when you talk about a vehicle, you also talk about its owner, its history, its sort of context of when it was made and what that means, and the difference between that version and a newer version. And there's always a story with the cars you work on. Again, also just going back to something you said earlier, Terry, I find it fascinating that you were the kind of kid that was just like, I'm going to take this apart, put it back together. And that didn't I used to do that with radios here in a little bit, but I kind of just gave up on that. Like, it doesn't sound like you gave up on that, but was restoring and an auto work, was that part of your sphere as a kid? Was your family doing that? Or is this something you just sort of took to?
No, I didn't, my dad would repair some things and had some hobbies similar to this, but nothing to the extent that I've done. I had to look for sources to learn stuff and that kind of thing outside of my immediate family. But it's I was thinking about this in the context of the Eat the Big Pig thing, And then in relationship to starting my own company too, it's like, I didn't know if it was going to work, either part of it, you know, and we kind of learned to take these leaps of chance, you know, if you will, and just kind of put it out there and see what happens, you know. And I've been very lucky, you know, with my work, because I've gotten to be involved in some things that really were outside of anything I thought I would get to do, you know. And I fixed a car for a woman from England who lives in a house that's in the historic register of the, you know, it's just, it blows my mind, you know. And when that came together, like I got an email from her and she said, you know, I'm thinking about taking a US holiday. I'd like to come there and collect the car and then drive it on a US holiday. Would you help me do that? You know? And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. You know?
Yeah.
And then I had found out that she had participated in a European rally called the Peking to Paris Rally, where she and a girlfriend drove a 1937 Plymouth from Peking to Paris.
1937.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, just checking.
Wow.
And so when I found that out, I said, well, you know, would you be interested in telling my local car club about that? And so I had the Flatwater Austin Healey Club people and the Porsche Club people. I invited them all to this event, and we had a dinner at Laszlo's. And then these ladies showed us, she brought the friend with that drove from Peking to Paris, and they showed us slides of their travel. And,
wow.
And we had she had bought a Porsche 1960 Porsche 356B from a friend of mine. And then I completed the restoration work for her. And then we had that down in front in the Haymarket on the street. And I have some great pictures of that. You know, it looks really cool there with the Laszlo's neon sign. And then she and her friend left here and they drove that car from here to New Jersey on a holiday and put it in a boat and took it back home. And then he later sent me photos of the car in front of some various castles, you know.
Right.
That's awesome.
Just crazy stuff, you know.
I remember when we first started hanging out at your old shop. We were there doing something, and you had 2, if not 3, I think 1956 Buick Roadmasters in there.
Oh wow!
Oh,
that you were turning into one Buick Roadmaster convertible.
That's right. Yeah.
And I remember saying, I was trying to wrap my brain around it. I'm like, either you have brass balls or you're totally insane. and you said, I like to think it's a little of both. and when that car was done, it was gorgeous. It was like a showroom new 56 Buick Roadmaster convertible.
Mm.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was quite a project too. The gentleman who owned that wanted air conditioning, and actually he had owned one of those cars when it was brand new. It was a 56 Century convertible. The Century was like...
did I have the model wrong?
You said Roadmaster. Roadmaster's a little bigger, but that's...
Okay.
And he wanted air conditioning, so he purchased an entire extra car from a salvage yard, a 4-door one that had air conditioning, so we could get the air conditioning, the original stock air conditioning.
Wow.
And then in that situation, we had to send that air conditioning to Florida to have it rebuilt in its stock form, and then you know, we installed that into the car. It was quite an ordeal.
Where was your first shop? I don't know that I know. I feel like I want to say it was downtown Lincoln. Is that true? Where was your first?
I was at 48th and kind of between Superior and Cornhusker on a street called Progressive Avenue.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know where that's at.
Yeah.
You
know, when I started my business, I had roughly enough money to start. I had enough money to buy a air compressor, pay my first month's rent and my deposit, and and just a little bit more, and I had a couple jobs lined up, and I was just going to do what it took,
Sure.
So it worked.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like you said earlier, or like Steve said earlier, massive brass cojones or completely bonkers. It's like, yeah, it takes a little bit of both to step out like that. I mean, it sounds like in a lot of ways that are good, but maybe in your story, not so good. That's kind of how Terry rolls. Right. It's like, well, I'm going to roll the dice, see if this works out. And it's like, that's, at least in the restoring classic sports cars, that is, it seems to have worked out. I mean, people bring their precious machines to you from across the pond, which is, I mean, I have to imagine that there's folks in the UK that could have restored that car for her.
That situation developed that way because that car was here.
Oh, okay.
And she purchased it from someone here that I had a connection to.
Gotcha.
But, in terms of the level of work we do, we had a car that we did, a 1953 Jaguar XK120. When we did that car, we really set out to do as good a work as we could do.
That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, that car completed.
And the customer sense has taken it to several national shows at very high level. And I didn't know he was planning to do that, or we would have prepared even more than we did. But at every show that he's taken that to, he's won an award of third place or higher.
Wow.
in its class in the concourse event. And an interesting thing, a customer of mine was standing by him, talking to him about it, asking him about the car in Arizona. And this customer told me kind of what the conversation was they were having. And a person came up to the owner of the car, who was a judge at that show, a Jaguar specialist judge, and asked him, where did you get this restored? And what did you pay for it? And then indicated to the owner of the car that he should have paid twice that to have that level of work done. And, and told him that it was as good as or better than the best shops in the country. And now that just like made me, that's the best thing that anyone can say,
Did you change your rates on the spot then?
Well, that's something that is, it's kind of a negotiation between a customer and myself. So
sure. I have to ask too, because like Steve said earlier, like you're somebody who is able to contextualize seemingly unrelated things and make them pretty profound. What has restoring cars like this taught you? Maybe spiritually, or maybe just about other humans or about yourself? Like, I mean, something that could be accessible to anybody that doesn't know anything about restoring old Jaguars. Like what has it taught you? What do you hold on to? What has been the spiritual maybe significance of this work?
Well, it's maybe taken me a long time to pick up some of those things, but I mean, I've always had a good work ethic. I got it from a farmer I used to work for. When I was a young kid, I worked 3 summers for a gentleman who I have tremendous respect for. And I was unmotivated and somewhat lazy about certain things. And he was a good example to me, and he didn't let any grass grow underneath my feet. And I knew that he was very successful. And I kind of wanted to accomplish something. And I saw from him how to go about it, and his words also, in certain situations were very helpful. In terms of, what have I learned long-term? life is, I mean, you could look at life like a car that is well taken care of, is not abused, is kept inside, kept clean, is so much better than one that has been left outside, neglected, and not cared for. And I mean, you could look at how you treat yourself or your loved ones in that manner and really draw a straight analogy across those lines. You know, why do you want to run your life ragged, you know, and not take care of it, you know? Mm-hmm. I think that maybe is the best analogy I could draw there.
Mm. My dad always said that clean cars run better.
Remarkably, it seems to be true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking that to heart right now, Terry, what you're saying. Cause like, yeah, I feel like I've unnecessarily lately been revving my engine and not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Right. Like I've been doing a lot of power stands and it's just a lot of noise and smoke. It's really not moving me anywhere or taking, and it's like this is really taking its toll, you know, like, yeah. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, part of the reason to take care of something is to get good performance out of it when you want it.
Right.
You know, and that can't be expected to happen all the time if you don't do the things you're supposed to do in the first place, you know.
Routine maintenance.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. A routine practice, routines in general.
Right. I remember being at your shop when you first got that Jaguar, that 120, and you were showing me the bare metal where it had been hand pounded.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Right. You could see where the metal had been put on like a wooden form.
Right.
And where the mallets had actually formed this beautiful sweeping fender piece.
Yeah. Now, like, part of the reason I do this is like, I love building neat things, you know, like I like making things beautiful. And the cars some of them predating about 1960, certain parts of the body structure building was very hands-on thing. They didn't have robots or automatic processes. And so there might be a craftsman that it was his job that day or every day of his employment at Porsche or Jaguar, wherever, to fasten two pieces of metal together in a seam that needed to be invisible. And I spent a lot of time perfecting that, learning how to do that, you know, to the best of my ability. And I probably welded like 100 miles of steel together or more. I have no idea. I mean, that is something I used to I did it all the time, you know. And Steve's kind of making me think about that, but I enjoy doing that too. So,
well, you fabricate parts
sometimes. Yeah. I have. Yeah.
That's wild.
I've really enjoyed over the years watching you collect all these I'm gonna say weird, that's not the right term, but just kind of, I'll say, specialized pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
You just, you know, just by nature of what you do and who you talk to, like don't you have like a 911 frame straightener or something?
Yeah, I do actually. I have it's called a fixture bench, and it has precisely located like dowel or jig pins that fit directly into certain spots on a 911 chassis so that you can tell if the suspension and mounting points of important things are in exactly the right spot. Yeah.
And that's only, it's specifically for a Porsche 911.
Only for Porsche 911s.
Isn't that amazing?
That's so cool.
Uh-huh.
That bench, I also have the same type of jigs for Porsche 356. So yes.
So I'm curious too, something you said earlier about, like, you know, knowing the history of a certain weld seam for a particular car would be done by, you know, that's why those cars are so special, so unique, because they weren't just churned out of a, you know, automation. Did you have to, like, what was your training in that? Is it something that you just learned trial and error? Did you get certificate? Do you have to have certificates in order to kind of be certified to work on these kind of cars? Like, or do you just like research how that particular craftsman did that weld, and you just trial and error figured it out?
I learned to weld in a high school shop class in Minden, Nebraska, the Minden
Nice.
Public Schools.
There you go.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
we had to learn the hard thing first. We had to learn how to gas weld. So that's like with a torch and a piece of steel rod.
Mhm.
And he told us that if we learned how to do that, we could do any other kind of welding.
Mm.
And he pretty much was accurate with that. So after, you know, when I did car work in high school, I was always afraid I didn't know what I was doing, and then I was doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When I repaired my own car or my buddy's car. My buddy, after my other friend helped me restore my car, then I helped my friend restore his Trans Am. They had Smokey and a Bandit Trans Am, which
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
anyway,
Did it have the Thunder Chicken on the hood?
it did, but then
T-tops.
he didn't have enough money to buy a Thunder
No.
Chicken sticker, so it didn't get put back on.
No.
But he loaned that car to his brother, and his brother put it in a ditch and made it shaped like a banana. So the running joke is with me and Dave is that, you know, Patrick owes you a Trans Am and you need to call it in, because
Sooner than later, it's just going to get more expensive.
Right.
well, anyway, so initially, you know, skeptical about my abilities and so forth, but then I went to work for this guy who'd done lots of restoration work, you know, and I had a lot to learn, but I had some basic skills in place that were valuable, you know,
Mhm.
and between the knowledge I acquired from him and what I already knew, I just got better and better and better. And I like to work. At that time, he was an interesting person, and he would, you know, we'd put together some fancy car, and he'd say, you know, I want to get this done by 2 weeks from today, and then we're going to take it to the show somewhere. And so we just worked 16 hours a day and get it done, and we maybe drive it to a car show in California or something, or Las Vegas. And it was interesting at that time. You know, it's pretty cool. Some of the stuff we did was in national magazines, and Motor Trend, I think, wrecked a car that I had done a bunch of work to.
They wrecked it?
Literally, yeah. Yeah, they slid it off a interstate off ramp.
What was the car? What were
And
they
rolled
doing?
it. It was I think it was a Mustang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like they were doing it like a photo shoot, and they screwed it up?
they were road testing it on the road. Their driver must have been being very aggressive, and they flipped it.
Oh.
Damn it.
So I think it's worth I think the story of this our trip to Elkhart Lake 11 years ago, if you can believe that, is
That's
worth
right.
telling.
In the 73 911.
In the aforementioned, the same car 73 911 that was all burning oil 20 years ago.
Right? Where we may have gotten a trophy.
Well, yeah, I think I'll tell my perspective of it. There's this deal at the place called Road America, which is outside of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And Road America is this big, it's a big racetrack. It's a huge facility, and it has a couple different kind of tracks roped into this, but there's like a Can-Am track, or what you would call it, like a road course. It's not just an oval. It's got turns and dips and
Right,
whatnot.
let me fill in a little history here.
Yeah, go.
Road America has been a racetrack since the 50s. The
Okay.
race there occurred on public streets. And then they built the real track. And every famous race car driver you could ever think of has raced there. For sure. That place was in its heyday in the 60s and 70s, and it is still used today by modern and historic race cars.
So this event, and I hope I'm getting the name right, Scott Redmond Challenge, is that right? Brian Redmond
International Challenge.
International Challenge. This event, it's like a weekend long deal where people from all over the country and maybe the world, I don't know, bring these priceless automobiles to do what amounts to gentlemen's racing. Like they actually get them out on the track and race them. And there's classes. There's the, I don't know, small cars and like little Porsches. And then there's like the Can-Am cars, which are just hellish mechanical beasts.
Right.
And they go out and they unleash them on this racetrack because these cars were not meant to sit. They were meant to be driven. And it's legit racing. I mean, nobody wants to wreck these cars, so there's an element of kind of be careful, but they're out getting after it. They're actually racing. And the amount of I keep saying the word priceless because a lot of them are these vehicles that it's just staggering the amount of money that's there, frankly. I was just utterly blown away. And I guess we went up to kind of help one of your customers, just make sure their car was doing good in the race.
Right. I have a client that races their Austin Healey Sprite in a vintage class, and that's the smaller end of the spectrum there. He's raced that car there probably for 14 years now. And so yeah, we do a little mechanical assistance for him at that race every year. And then also we entered my car in the street car concourse show that year.
Well, yeah, and that's the deal with this thing is that and the picture's worth 1,000 words, so I'll try to keep it to about 150, but it's not going to happen. But so like in the evening, all the people that are at the racetrack in Road America go into this little town of Elkhart Lake, which is idyllic and beautiful, and it's on a lake, and it's just it's just this huge street party with all of these amazing cars. And part of the deal of that is it's like a competition. It's a car show. And Terry entered his 73 911 in this car, which I think probably a year previously was in boxes and parts because you restored every piece of that car over the course of a couple of years, maybe. Right.
Yeah. I'd finished it up probably just shortly before you and I left. Yeah.
So it was basically a brand new 1973 Porsche 911. It was as good a shape as it could be, probably even better when it was showroom new. And so we're hanging out at this party, and we'd walked around and we looked at all the cars, and some of the judges came by. I think were they affiliated with Road and Track magazine?
Probably.
Yeah. And so, Terry just kind of told the story of the car, and, they said, okay, great. And they went on and as the night's kind of winding down, and Terry's like, well, let's go up. There was like a grandstand or, a stage. So let's go up and see what the hell was going on. And there was one trophy sitting left on the stage, and it was for Terry's 911. It was the damnedest thing.
What was the trophy? It was
first place in my class.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what that did, besides just being an awesome achievement in itself, but it got that car into the best of show competition the next morning, which was 8 cars, maybe the first, the best in class.
Yeah.
Just like a dog show, right? Only with cars.
At the racetrack the next day
at Road America.
At Road America, the winners get to park in a prominent place where people will see the cars. So it's a viewing basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, and it wasn't even my car.
I was excited.
I think it was such a poignant, the right word, just because you and that car had been through a lot in the preceding decade.
Yeah. That was great.
You had been through a lot in that decade, And just to have that, for me, knowing you and kind of your situation, like that felt like it was a really awesome way to kind of start a new thing.
Yeah.
It was a really nice little shot in the arm, you know?
Yep.
I mean, it's not lost on me, the idea of restoration and re-restoration in kind of the rooms that we hang out and we all met in, you know, that's like, that's real redemption. You know, you talk, other groups talk about, or other belief systems may talk about redemption, but I've only seen it in these places. You know what I mean? And that's like, these cars get a second, third, fourth shot, and to have this to be celebrated well into their years and to kind of continue to be maintained is something that we get to kind of be in awe of, you know?
Well, that's the thing that I really like. That's so cool to see. And I was telling Terry before you got here, Joel, like I haven't even been, Terry did a major addition to his shop and I haven't been out. That was a year ago. And I haven't even been out there to see it. So I got the webcam tour of it, but like just to see some of these cars come in and then to go out looking like whatever, greased lightning, like just bad analogy, but same kind of deal though, where they come in and sometimes pretty sad shape, and roll out showroom new or better. Well, that's got to be gratifying.
I got to come back to my friend Jim because he had a bad week last week,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Jim's car, I think it came from a field.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were saying before, maybe I did what I did because I was a little bit crazy, but youth has a way of making you believe you can do anything sometimes, and when I think about that particular car, it was really bad, like one of the worst ones we started with ever.
Uh-huh.
And where I'm going with this is that, Jim drove that thing to like 100,000 miles. Mm-hmm. And he took it to car shows in states all over the US. Mm-hmm. And he won trophies there. And Jim drove that car so much. And one of the things Jim prided himself on is that he didn't always wash it. But Jim had a stack of ribbons and first place trophies from that car, one of which, or more than one of which, were at, like, they have an annual or national MG show somewhere every year. And he would get first place at that thing,
Wow.
And what Jim had was a unstoppable spirit about him.
Mm-hmm.
And enthusiasm. And he did that in spite of any kind of defect he might have had about himself or his, the guy was 83.
Wow.
And he still did that stuff. And so, sometimes when I'm discouraged or I'm tired, I have this little image in my head of like maybe the 7 leaders of the world religions that are prominent, and they're in a poster and they're looking at me and they're saying, "What are you going to do?"
Right.
And so now I'm going to add Jim and a couple other guys to the poster, and it's like, what are you going to do?
What I really love about that, and maybe it's commonplace in that competition world, is that I think you mentioned it twice, so maybe it's a big deal that he drove that car to those shows. It wasn't like he put it in a trailer and towed it to these shows. He was driving it. It was this car that he was showing up to kind of dirty and road weary and had to kind of tweak before the show. Like he was driving this car, not in a glass case, but it was the thing taking him to all of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and that was the thing that struck me at deal I was talking about a minute ago with the thing at Elkhart Lake is that the judging is very I mean, I think there's probably some technical criteria, but it was also much like a dog show. It's very subjective for the judge how they feel about that particular animal or car.
Well,
right?
That's true. And there are shows that are like that. And then there are shows where they have checklists of hundreds of items that they see a certain way.
But I think the thing that got you the trophy at Elkhart Lake for your 911 was the story as well as the car.
I think that's to some extent true.
I mean, the car was it was beautiful and perfect, but I think just the story of where it had been the last couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
I think the judges went, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now, Terry? Like what's in the garage right now?
Well, right now we have 2 Porsche 356 Speedsters that we're kind of finishing up. We have a 71 911 T that we did a complete nut and bolt everything restoration to. Wow. That's nearly done. We have a Triumph TR2. We just finished overhaul work on the engine of a Volvo P1800, and we added air conditioning to it. This nice car now. Let's see. Maintenance on a 1984 911 that has been parked for 5 years, so it needs a little, recommissioning. But it only has 30,000 miles, which is
God. It's like brand new. It's just broken in.
Yeah, I have a 73 914 with an interesting story. Person bought it new in 73 and then got married and pregnant and sold it, and then later tracked it down.
Oh, wow.
The same car,
his car. Florida, and bought it back. Wow. And then in 1999, that's when he did that. I painted it in 1999, partially because it had become kind of sun faded. But that car only has 20,000 miles, which is remarkable. The inside of it appears as new. And part of that credit is to the owner because he's meticulous. And he's very detail oriented, and he's cleaned and polished and, done his work, but he brought it back in to have the engine compartment brought up to the level of the rest of the car. And so we've taken that out, and, anything that didn't look like it's only got 20,000 miles has been refinished or refurbished and repaired, and had some leaks and things like that. So now that car is like, you could take it to like the Porsche Club and enter it in what they call a preservation class, because it's not totally restored, but it's like we're trying to make it what it's supposed to be without over restoring.
Right.
And,
so that it looks as if it had never been altered or changed. It's not updated or pristine, correct, but it's like this is captured in time almost.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
What's the coolest thing you've ever done? Like coolest car you've ever worked on? That just like still kind of blows your mind.
That's got to be a tough question to answer.
Yeah,
that's pretty tough. I did metalwork on Porsche 356 Carrera, which is a 4-cam car. Porsche made a special motor that they put in race cars in the 1950s. It's kind of what made them famous to some extent. And so, like, if you're familiar with what a 550 Spider is, a Porsche 550 Spider, it would come with a 4-cam engine. That's all they ever put in those. The 356 model mostly didn't have the 4-cam engine, but some 356s got the 4-cam engine. So if you have a 356 with a 4-cam engine, it's extremely valuable. This particular Porsche 356 Carrera. When it was new, the original owner purchased it and then entered it in several European rally races. So what that is, they would block off the roads between, say, Rome and somewhere in France, and then they would time the people driving from the one point to the other. And you would have these log books that you had to stop in various places, and they stamp your time and sign it and send you on your way. So that particular car had participated in the Rome rally like 2 years or 3 years in a row, and also in another rally. And in one rally, it was wrecked and destroyed. Well, that car came to me in need of like the bottom 6 inches of metal in the structure.
So a little work.
And some other things.
Needed some love.
Yeah. So I did that. So like in terms of probably the most historically significant car that I've worked on, that's probably it.
That's cool. That's so cool.
I'm particularly proud of the Jag 120 that Steve was talking about. Mm-hmm. And I got to take that. The customer let me take that to a show in Kansas City where I displayed it. And the guest of honor there was a man named Sir Sterling Moss, who was a knight of the Royal British Empire and the second best race car driver in the world between about 1950 and the 60s. And he was like 82 when I went to that show. And they put me in front of where he was sitting, I think because I had a Jaguar, because his first official racing job was for Jaguar. So he was talking to me about the car, and he said, you know, they gave me one of these when I started working for Jaguar at my first job. He said, I asked him, I said, they gave it to you, you mean to keep? And he said, no, it's still theirs. It's better that way because they have to pay for the maintenance. And then he informed me that he had he picked up a lot of what he called crumpets in that car. And his wife, who was with him, said that one of the Jaguar executives' names, I don't remember which one it was, would be very proud of the car, you know,
that you had there,
that we restored.
Yeah.
So we'll have to find the pictures of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna comb
that
through
car is, when it was completed, some of those professional photos you had taken up, Terry, it's like the most sensuous thing on wheels that's ever existed.
So I'm pretty proud of that too. So that was a good deal. And I got some good guys that work for me, you know. I got that really, the three of us, the team we have now is very good.
Nice.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. You got to dial it. I mean, people that are kind of, know how well you want things done and how your level of work ethic. I mean, you're able to pass that on just like it was passed on to you, you know?
Well, man, this has been really great. We're kind of bumping up against our time that we usually shoot for. Joel probably wants to ask you his questions.
Oh yeah. I've just been really, Terry, thank you so much for this. I'm just I'm just digging, just chatting with you. I mean, it's like we have such interesting friends, and you are definitely one of them.
For real.
So, one thing we like to, I think it's always interesting to ask of our guests, like, what are some things that you are currently listening to or always listening to? Now, this could be bands, artists, musicians, whatever, or it could be books that you're listening to or other podcasts or maybe just radio. I mean, what are you listening to, like, while you're in the shop, or what are your all-time favorites? Like, what comes to mind when I ask that?
That's I spend a lot of time in the shop, so I listen to stuff because I'd get bored otherwise. But so I listen to blues influence British rock.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've listened to that so much, sometimes I can't listen to it.
Right.
And then I like certain outlaw country type stuff.
Yeah.
I call them the drunken cowboy philosophers.
Yeah.
And they usually have a rather poignant way of saying things, or talking about life. So I like that. I don't know. That's kind of musically the spot where I am sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's.
Do you have like what of those outlaw country artists? Which one comes to mind?
Like recently?
Yeah.
Sure.
No. Todd Snyder's funny, man.
Oh yeah, he's so good.
Sturgill Simpson's good.
Yeah,
sure.
Sturgill Simpson, he's otherworldly. Like he's from another planet and time.
Like he can span genres.
Yeah,
which that's cool.
Yeah, he can kind of do anything. Cool. Well,
yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know that, Terry. I wouldn't have guessed it. That's really great. Thanks.
I kind of forgot about Todd Snyder.
Yeah.
He's great. Well, man, thanks so much for doing this. We've been talking about getting you on here forever. And since Joel and I first started talking about this, we compiled a list of people we want to talk to, and you were right on there, man. So thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks, Terry.
Well, thanks, guys. I didn't know how it go, but I've enjoyed it. So
yeah, man.
Good.
All right. And I've enjoyed listening to your podcast as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Yep.
Later.
Bye.
I want to know just how do you feel? I want everybody in the building, everybody in the middle of the night to hear my voice and say, yeah. Yes, I know, I believe that you feel pretty good tonight. I feel pretty good my own self. Wow, I feel pretty good my own self too. Wow, yes I do. Come on and clap your hands. Come on and clap your hands. Come on and clap your hands. Clap your hands. Come on and clap your hands. Come on and clap your hands. I can't hear you. Clap your hands. Just a little bit louder. 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 Just a little bit louder, baby. Oh yeah. Just a little bit louder. And I wanna know. 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 Hey, hey, I wanna know. Oh, I wanna know. Hey, hey, hey. How do you feel? How do you feel? Come on. Yeah. Wow. Ah, yeah. Whoa. Just one thing I want to know now. Just one thing I want to know before I go. I want to know just how do you feel? I hope you feel all right. Because I feel all right my own self. Yes, I do. gonna tiger. I'm gonna put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank. Ha! Yes, I will. And now if you feel all right, children, let me hear it back one more time. And if you feel all right now, let me hear it back one time. I said, all right. Come on now, all right now. All right. Oh, all right. All right. Come on now. All right. All right. All right. Little bit louder, baby. Hey, come on, little bit louder. Just a little bit louder, baby. Just a little bit louder. Just a little bit louder. I said, oh, all right. Wow, all right. All right now. All right. All right. All right now. That's just the one thing I want to tell you now. Before I go, I just want to tell you one thing. Hey, now don't you know, if you want yourself a little loving, if you want yourself just a little bit of hugging, if you want to get yourself together, and now my baby coming, that's all you got to do. Wow, hey, that's all you gotta do. Come on to TCB. Wow, a TCB, baby. Yeah, you gotta start real slow. Yeah, and don't you know? But if you're gonna TCB, yeah, you got to do it real easy, baby. Yes, you do. Yeah, yeah. Wow, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's only one thing I want to do now. There's about one thing I want to say. One thing I gotta do, baby. Wow, one thing I gotta say now. Wow, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do. I got to do it. Wow, got to do it. Wow, yes, I will. Yeah. I just want to leave you tonight. It's about time to go. I want to leave you with a little bit of information. Yes, I do. If you want to find yourself a little bit of loving, if you want to find some hugging too, there's only one thing you got to do now. One thing you got to do. There's only one thing you can say. One thing you can do now. One thing you can do, baby. Ah, yes you will. Yes you will. You got. Come on, no. Only one thing I can do, baby. And only one thing I can say now. Why? Yeah, you got to wait, baby. Ha, until things begin to get all right. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you want to make everything all right. If you want to get yourself together too. If you want to get yourself together, all you got to do is slow down just a little bit. You got to slow down just about a little taste. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. There's only one thing you gotta do, baby. Only one thing you gotta say now. One thing you gotta do. Wow. One thing you got to say. You got to wait till the midnight hour. That's when my love comes tumbling down. I got to wait till the midnight hour when there's no one else around. I'm gonna take you, girl, and hold you, yeah. You ought to think that I'm going in the midnight hour. Wow! Hey, come on now. Wow! Yeah, baby.
Don't forget, toot your hooter.